honor for me. Thank you, Ada Makbul, for your invitation. Thank you, Sana Committee, for having me here. And really very much pleased to talk about Sindhi civilization and Indus Valley civilization. So Sindhi civilization is actually rooted very much into Indus Valley civilization, which is very ancient. And it was much larger in size than what we have now, Sindh as a province in Pakistan. It stretched from the foothills of Himalayas in the north to the Arabian Sea coast in the south, and from Iran and Afghanistan borders in the west to Gujarat in India in east. And 1,500 settlements had been identified as Indus civilization's settlements. Mostly they are village cultures, but some of them evolved to big cities. Moen Jo Dari and Harappa in Pakistan, Lothal, Kalibanga, Farmana, Rakhigari, Dholavira in India. Moen Jo Dari is the largest and the most elaborate of those cities. Now that's about the land, but the river has been very important, River Indus, because the civilization flourished because of it. River Indus is obviously a Greek name that has been given to it. Otherwise, the land itself was known as Sapta Sindhu, which means the land was actually known, the identity was of the river. And it has been written in Rig Veda as Sapta Sindhu, which means the land of 7 rivers. And Persians, they changed the pronunciation to Hapta Hindu. And from that, Greeks, they changed it to Indu and added an S in the end. So it becomes the Indus civilization. Now, Indus civilization, it was a contemporaneous of the Mesopotamian and the Egyptian civilizations. But it was not a state organized society, because Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations, they had this monumental architecture. The kings, they had acquired the status of gods. But Indus Valley civilization was nowhere close to that. Moen Jo Dari and the most well-known site of Mesopotamia, the Ur of the Chaldees, they were excavated at the same time in 1920s. In Ur, what Dr. Woolley discovered, who excavated the site, was ziggurats, royal tombs, and treasures. Moen Jo Dari did not have all that extravaganza, not even an ordinary graveyard. Can you imagine that at its peak, the population was 50,000, but we have only discovered about 24 skeletons. So that is another story for another day. Now, the land, because it's known about the river, and Sapta Sindhu would mean that at some time there were like 7 tributaries within this area that we are talking about. And this is because obviously Indus is very well known for changing its courses. Now, just behind my village, near Mirpur Khas, about a furlong away, we had an ancient river bed. It was called Puran. And then I'm very lucky to see some more ancient landmarks, and that is how I had been fascinated by Antiquity. I think inspiration comes from there. So another landmark was Kahu Jo Daro, which was near Mirpur Khas again. Kahu was discovered much before Moen Jo Dari. And actually Kahu was the inspiration that the Archaeological Survey of India started that survey towards Upper Sindh, and Moen Jo Dari was discovered. So I'm also lucky that I heard stories, and I think I'm more lucky because I think those were the last generation of great storytellers. They would sing the, what should I say, the ballad of Dodo and Chanesar, and they will tell the stories of Sikandar Badshah, and we all know that was Alexander the Great. Now mind you, Alexander the Great is not mentioned in any Indian record. We know about him through the Greek chronicles. Now how did these storytellers remember that name and that legend? And now I already told you that we have Puran behind our village. Now after many years, Mr. Muhammad Hussain Pamar, he told me that Puran was actually an active river until the times of Alexander the Great. So you see the connection, the reason that I'm telling you the legend, it is so important. It remains in your collective memory and you know about it, but there is no written record about it. So I always say that archaeology is a very interdisciplinary subject. We cannot discard legends, whatever we have, you know. Now, coming to Mesopotamia, we talked about what was discovered. The other thing that was discovered as Mesopotamia, it had cuneiform writings, and which was done on the clay tablets. And there were thousands of clay tablets which tell the story of that civilization. And these tablets are actually stacked in the library of Ashur-bani Pal, which was a king. I think the library is in Iraq. We also hear about the library of Alexandria, which gives us the story of Egyptian civilization and of course many more. But in Sindh, what do we have? We don't have all this written stuff about Moen Jo Dari. What we have discovered are the seals. And seals are very tiny, made of cystite, hard to pronounce, cystite stone. In Sindhi we call it mate. Matlab mate junta hilla, but it was baked, and that is how it has become hard. Now on the seals, there are images, haunting images, you know, like of human images, animals are there, trees are there, and there are unidentifiable objects. And above them is a row of symbols. Now, archaeologists feel that this is a system of writing, and it is representing some very ancient unknown language. So most of the research had actually been on this aspect, on the linguistic aspect. But mind you, it has been 100 years that Moen Jo Dari has been discovered, but the seals have not been deciphered. So what do we have on the seals? The symbols, which we are trying to decipher, we haven't yet deciphered. But isn't that very symbolic? It is symbolic in the sense that the influence of Sindhi civilization or Indus civilization, it spread world over, but silently, not even through words, through symbols. And in the other civilizations, we have the written records. So this we have to really appreciate, that you know how these seals are even survived. Now the lesson that we learn from Indus civilization, which is our legacy, I come to that. So the most known legacy which is recognized by the archaeologist is that Indus civilization was the most non-violent civilization among the 7 river civilizations of the world. It was the largest and it was the most non-violent. It was very advanced in metallurgy. The metal was melted in Moen Jo Dari, but not for the weapons, for the utensils, for the agriculture and hunting tools. Elephant appears on the seals, but not as an animal used in the battles and wars as in later day India's, but as a beast of burden for travel and to transport timber to faraway countries like Mesopotamia. Now, another thing that had been discovered in Mesopotamia were a few artifacts from Indus Valley civilization. There were the beads, the turquoise beads, which were actually manufactured in Moen Jo Dari. Those were found in the site of Ur. Also a few seals and bricks, because Moen Jo Dari is all a bricked structure. So based on that, we know the age of Moen Jo Dari. That is how they established that it is a contemporary civilization of Mesopotamia. But this cross-dating has caused some misconceptions. And this is so important for us to remember, because when we say contemporaneous, everybody starts to look at Indus civilization in the shadows of Egypt and Mesopotamian civilizations. We cannot judge its ruins with those colossal architecture. So what I emphasize is that we can understand Moen Jo Dari more if we judge Moen Jo Dari on its own merit. So if you judge it on its own merit, it is a very important site, because this is the only site where we have the record of urbanization, the evolution of urban phase of human civilization. Otherwise, if you compare it to Mesopotamia, and what the archaeologists have been saying is that it is a step below the state-organized societies. Yes, there was state organization, but not in the traditional sense that we consider the other two civilizations. So what was our organizations? By the time Moen Jo Dari had matured, it represents a mature urban phase of the civilization which had lasted for 700 years, from 2600 BCE to 1900 BCE. Now in that civilization, Moen Jo Dari reached the stage where there was surplus production in agriculture. It could afford a non-agrarian society. So that's why, in Moen Jo Dari, people got time for finer aspects of life, for creativity, for spirituality. And that is how, the seals, which are artistic, so artistically made, those were made. The meanings behind the seals. And this had been my subject, so now I think let me speak on the seals. Let me begin with a personal story. When I did my master's with distinction in Karachi University, I thought of doing PhD. So I called Dr. F.A. Khan. He was the first native Director General of Pakistan Department of Archaeology and Museums, a grand old man. I have full respects for him. And he had, of course, excavated Bambhor, a very important site for the Republic of Islam, Pakistan, And he had done those excavations based on the research of Dr. N.A. Baloch, who had connected Chachnama with Bambhor, and that is how that site, which is very important, of course, that was excavated. So Dr. F.A. Khan was very happy to hear that a woman wants to do PhD in archaeology, and he really welcomed me and he invited me to his house. So we had a very good conversation, but when he asked me about the topic, that what is the topic that you want to do PhD, and I said that, sir, I want to decipher the Indus seals. So he had a notebook in front of him and he put it aside and he says, if you want to do it on that topic, I cannot be your guide. In fact, he said that if you want to do PhD on this topic, you can't do it. Why? I asked. And he said that because no one in Pakistan has researched the Indus seals, so who's going to be your guide? So that was very disappointing. And that was the time that I just put my academic work on the side and I started writing for the newspapers, which I loved to do. Journalism is also, one of my passions. So I think most of the articles in Dawn, Pakistan Times, Stars, Jung, Humsafar, think of it, Third World, Pakistan Nation, all these magazines, some of them have been even closed, the Third World. So I started writing. But I think I had such a desire of this, understanding the story of Moen Jo Dari. And the only way to understand was whatever is on the seal, interpret them and reconstruct the story of Moen Jo Dari. That desire being so strong that I came and I accidentally landed in Ithaca, New York. And I called Dr. George Dales. This is another story I forgot, but let me go back. Dr. George Dales is the last archaeologist to excavate Moen Jo Dari. And in 1979, he had returned to Pakistan. Whatever his artifacts collection was, he wanted to write a book and catalog them. And that was stored at the Department of Archaeology in Karachi. So there was this UNESCO seminar, it was sponsored by Federal Government of Pakistan in collaboration with UNESCO. And because I had my master's in distinction, so I was given the opportunity to read a paper on Moen Jo Dari. And mind you, I was the only Pakistani woman to read that paper. And I met two very famous archaeologists from India, Mr. B.B. Lal and B.K. Thapar. They also attended that seminar. And there were archaeologists world over, French team, American team, from Afghanistan, from Japan. But my most productive meeting with was Dr. George Dales. And he told me that he is going to work here and be for a semester. So I volunteered. I said, can I work with you? And he said, if you can get an NOC letter from the Department of Archaeology, I don't have any objection. So I worked with him. And that is how all these ancient artifacts, they literally passed from my hand. I was a novice. I just had to label it. And I would see Dr. Dale's student, who is still working at Harappa, Dr. Jonathan Mark Canoyer. He was a young man at that time. He would construct, with these potsherds, the whole, beautiful vases that belong to that age. And I don't know why a thought occurred to me that in this way, we can collect the puzzle pieces and reconstruct the whole story of Moen Jo Dari. That could be done, So again, now going back to this just I mentioned, but now let me go back to Cornell. So when I reached at Cornell, I did not know that I was in Ithaca and Cornell is there. I called George Dales and I told him that I'm here and I would like to, he was from the University of California, Berkeley. And I said that, can you do something for me at Berkeley? And he said, look, Parveen, this is not Pakistan. We cannot have a position open for you, like there. And by the way, he asked in the end, and his words were, by the way, where are you right now? You are not in California? I said, no, I'm in Ithaca. So he said, oh, okay, you are in a good place. You go to Cornell University. Dr. Kenneth Kennedy is there. Dr. Kenneth Kennedy was a very senior professor at Cornell University, and he was at the same time a forensic biologist. And he had actually worked on the skeletons discovered from Moen Jo Dari, because when Dr. Dale's team was working in Pakistan, they invited him to come and check these skeletons, because there was a theory that it has been Aryan invasion. So he checked these skeletons, and his report matters a lot, which put an end to this debate that whether the civilization was attacked by Aryans or whether it was Dravidian, because his report said that there are no traumatic marks on it. So Dr. George Dales told me that go and meet Dr. Kenneth Kennedy at Cornell. And believe me, in those old days, those telephones, so I put, one hand on that he doesn't hear it. And I asked my friend sitting next to me, I said, is there a university here? And she said, yes, Cornell. So next morning I went, and Dr. George Dales had already spoken with Dr. Kenneth Kennedy. And when so much of disappointment behind me, when I met Dr. Kenneth Kennedy, he said, yes, last night Dr. George Dales had called me and show me what you have. So I showed him my portfolio, whatever I had written in so many newspapers. And he said, I have never seen in Pakistan, when I was, so much material in the newspapers and magazines. So I said, this is what my passion is, that, whatever I do in academia, I must share it with the general public. So anyway, he said, okay, I am having a semester-long seminar on South Asia. I will be taking care of the Indian side. That is Dr. Sudarshan Senavirathne from Sri Lanka. He is going to take care of the Sri Lankan archaeology. And we are lucky to have you, that now you are from Pakistan, you can participate as an archaeologist from Pakistan. And I said to myself, Parveen, you are in the right place at right time. This is how I just stepped into Cornell. And then each year they kept on renewing my,